Round 12, we've kicked it off with the Dogs getting absolutely trounced by the Dolphins there. Over 40 points against the ladder leaders, which is pretty impressive. And I suppose the problem for the Dogs is this was coming. You know, they've had a couple of really good bounce back games in the second half, usually led by Stephen Crichton. And with him not there, with Curran not there to help out and make those plays down that right-hand side, they didn't have the attack, unfortunately, even though, you know, Burton I thought was pretty solid. And then the Finns were a lot better, you know, much more clinical with the ball, and they had plenty of attack and led by their maestro, the youngster in Isaiah Katoa. He's been spectacular, and yeah, majority of their players are great. You know, Kerr going through the middle for his offload try assist, and you know, Kurt Donahue after his broken nose, that was a tremendous effort, and that was a bad knock. Burton went off for a bit with his knock as well. So, you know, how good's wet weather footy? It's so different, isn't it? You know, with the slides and yeah, it's kind of all happening at one point. Yeah, I think they were diving for the ball in the in goal, and it was like stacks on for a little bit. So fun in that from that standpoint anyway. But with this game, both teams, Doggies and the Finns, have a bye next week, and then they get extra important from that. You know, getting through that round 13. Then the Doggies, I think, miss 16 and the Finns miss 18. So for the Doggies, if you can get them with only the one more bye remaining there, that can be really helpful for your side going forward. And there are a few options without, you know, a tremendous amount. And one of them may have, you know, priced himself out of contention anyway with Josh Curran. And with the Finns there, you're looking at, you know, round 15, round 16, round 19 as well. And they do have one more bye left, so it's a little bit different to that of the Doggies. But shout out to the fans for showing up for this one. Now the Dolphins, it's led by Farnworth there. What about the leg infection? Did you, if anyone listened post game, they spoke to him. He did have that wrap around his leg. I was trying to work out what that was, and then yeah, he was actually in hospital the night before, and then flew down from Brizzy, I think a couple of hours before the game, then basically straight out into the warm up. So very, very impressive, and a big thank you to you, Herbie, for getting out there and playing. And I love with his try as well that Cody Nikarima tried to go for the crash play, and then he was pretty close, obviously. And then Herbie got his opportunity. He's like, yeah, 1-on-1, you're not stopping me. So that was a good little try there. And I think all of the Herbie captainers in the top 1K guys, 20.3% of people captained Herbie. So in the wet, that was ballsy, and it ended up working out okay. You know, I imagine Tarpanay and Clark and these guys can outdo that if all things go fine for them. Hopefully, I haven't looked actually at in New Zealand, but hopefully a drier clash for those guys. But as you can tell with a few of the scores from the Doggies guys, that this was very much a middles dominated game, with Donahue getting 55 and then Curran and Hayes really dominating for the Doggies there through the centre. Now, yeah, that Farnworth one, it's just so impressive for him to come in and do that. He's a top tier keeper. Looks to get him post bye if he didn't get so far. But I think a lot did. I think probably 70% now after last night, have bought him in and have him in that top 1,000. Now, Isaiah Katoa, he's just such a good half. He had 55 in the wet. Absolutely happy days. So him and Farnworth had the same. I'll go through their stats in a second. Just finding he's really, really strong in defense now is his big win, and a clear top 3 fantasy half this year. So he's someone that you could look to purchase after their bye. And we'll talk about Burton as well, because he comes into that conversation, but at a cheaper price. Now Herbie, with the try assist as well, just to have no negatives was great in the wet. That's the biggest win you can have, because it can be very easy to miss tackles and have your handling errors, which a few of the players did have. Connor Tracy, Burton, Donahue had a couple there as well. But yeah, most of the guys that scored well, it was just because they weren't error riddled in this one. So good run for him, 13 tackles, no misses. Not feeling great until sort of game day, which was ideal there for owners. And then Isaiah Katoa got the try assist late, a beautiful play, turning back on the inside. And 19 tackles, 1 miss. I think you got a turnover tackle coming out hard of the line. And then one other, he came out and tried to put a shot on and did miss that one. So you can handle, in that scenario, a plus 5 there, which is great. Run meters less than normal, but it was more of a wet game. He just had to control things a little bit more, and then good kick meters as well. had a couple of forced dropouts. So just a really good game across the board. Not to the heights of last week because he wasn't running the footy as much, but when these are, without that try assist, he would have been a high 40s, and that's kind of his floor at the moment, which is great for him out there. A shout out to Kurt Donahue for his 55 with the try late and 38 tackles, a couple of misses, and a couple of errors and a penalty, but he worked his butt off and coming back off that broken nose, it looked in a decent place. I love it in commentary. They're like, he brought his nose over from his cheekbone. Bit hyperbolic potentially there on that one. And Lemuelu, just wanted to mention him. We couldn't get him a full game. He was back to starting. A few people were looking at him. I didn't end up speaking about him too much. I think I commented on YouTube when someone asked me about it. But I thought he was interesting, but then he got pushed back to the bench there, and he's just scoring really well in lower minutes. He just needs a chance, doesn't he? We see there 50 minutes, 45 points with a try assist, and he's put in good work. He's averaging 33.5, but it's because the minutes have been tremendously low there for Lemuelu, and it was also nice to see Harrison Graham back in the fray after him being a bit of a cash cow a couple of years ago. So 45 points with the try and line break for him, and Kurt, the smaller boys, playing 9 and through the middle. That was really cool to see. So that's the Finns. Not too much there, but a couple of long-term keepers, which is great. Now for the Doggies, just a bit of a gross game for them. Felt like it was coming, as I said, with them getting 20 points or so put on them in first halves and yes, coming back and building that momentum. But when you don't have all the weapons, it can be very tough. So for them, I don't think the defense and the discipline has been good enough, and I think that should put a rocket up at them, and they can get better from there. Now, if you bought Josh Curran this week, you're absolutely cheering. It was pretty well a career game. We've seen him score well, and usually it is on the edge and playing the full game. And this is what happened. I suppose we didn't know until they went out on the field. He actually moved to the right edge, and Harry Hayes played through the middle, which is how it probably should be. And I wish they kind of named that during the week that way. I think a lot more people would have jumped on to Josh Curran in that one. He was close to the best on ground, well, their best on ground, definitely. As I said, would have been nice to know. Always goes well there, and well done Tobias there. 78 in this game, 60 tackles with the Finns having the ball so much. Only missed 3 in the wet, very impressive. 101 run meters. He had the offload and a few tackle breaks early, so a massive win for anyone who did jump on and didn't have enough cash to go to the big dogs up there in AFB and these types of guys. And shout out to you. I don't think many grabbed in the top 1,000. It was more like Halpoi or those kind of guys there. And then Harry Hayes as well, 67 for him and 56. You can see there lots of tackles through the middle, especially for the Doggies, with the Finns having so much possession and putting on so many points. So to go 49-0 with a couple of turnover tackles, very, very impressive there. And just, it was kind of at an awkward price at 456. We know with him, compared to Curran, yes, Curran will go back to the middle, but he has a clear big minute role, whereas Hayes has that sort of bench middle role, and it's very hard to buy him when he needs to score sort of 45 plus every week, and we can't guarantee that. And we've seen that, before this week, it was an under 40 average. So if you did buy, good work, but if you didn't, then so be it. Just wanted to mention him. Matty Burton, 45 with the past HIA. He's played 68. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's 12 apparently. I thought he played well even with the 3 errors. Some of the kicks, a couple of drop balls there, which surely you're just putting those. If you're 40 out, 50 out, just put up that massive bomb. You're probably going to get a result out of it. It's crazy that it just doesn't happen more often. But good to see 2 in this game. Some people bought this week, and 45 I think you'll take in the wet, especially with the HIA and the big loss. So I think he's a nice cheap half from round 14. When you can get him at pretty well 550k is what he's going to be. I think the break even was like 41 or something. He had the 2 goals, had the 1 try assist off a kick. Defensively was solid. Still had -10. Ran the footy a bit. 72 meters for 3 tackle breaks. And there will be other games where he does better than that. So Burton, solid. Look to him. Look to Katoa, following their buys. And see where you lie cash-wise in this one. Kicker. Pretty fine score for him, 43. 3 offloads there, replacing some of those attacking stats. It felt like it was a bit more of a a normal kick-out score for years past, but it is very hard to judge these type of plays in the wet there. No attacking stats at all, 28 tackles for 1 miss, only 69 run meters, and they tried to use him early. They seemed to, he'd get close at times. He got held over the line once. Had some opportunities in the second half. It was just a bit of a nothing one for him running wise, and just some tackles and the like there. So if you bought kick out this week, could have been worse, could have been better for sure. What else we got? Halfboy did his job. I think getting up to 35 with a nice upgrade. He was on 31 in 37 minutes, and then they fixed it and 35 in 35. So you take that. Of course, he got the offload early and then got the dirty try off the ricochet and hit his arm and caught it and went over. But congrats to him on his first try. I think there was a couple of first try scorers from last night. One from the Finns and was it Harrison Graham's first maybe? Yeah, I think Donahue scored one. But both those guys first try, so congrats to that one. And did a job. If you bought him at the cheap price, you played him 35, you take that. I suppose those that didn't buy and didn't play him in that spot, we are hoping that the guys that we're going to go for 45, 50 plus and can kind of beat out on getting that cheap guy and getting the cash win in that one. But overall, a really solid effort from him with 20 tackles, 1 miss, 67 run meters. So no tackle breaks, had the one offload. Did a job. Definitely out there. And then Reed Marnie. So he had 36 in this one. Not a full game, 68 minutes. Kind of just normal programming. To be honest with Reed, it wasn't his best game. We have lots of low scores like this in his game. And if you are buying someone like him, that's where I look at it and go, yes, he's only about 100K more expensive than someone like Jazz Savunga. But we know that Jazz, if he can get sort of 50 minutes in the middle, he can lock in mid-40 scores pretty comfortably, cheaper price, has hooker and mid-dual, that type of stuff. And Reed's in a similar boat where he does play each of the major buys as well, but he's a tough watch with errors, missed tackles. Only 2 missed tackles, and this one's pretty low. Hardly ran the footy, little bit of kicking, and could have got sin binned at one point in there for just losing his marbles at Kurt Donahue. He was in everything, Kurt, wasn't he? 1 turnover tackle. So as you can probably tell, I'm not super keen on Reed as a buy. Like when you average 40 for the season, it's very hard to get too excited about your prospects. You're going to have little runs there, a couple of games, 3 games where he goes 40, 48 plus, scores well, and then he seems to be losing some minutes at times here. So even in this clash with you're having a few of their middles out, their leaders out, they even still gave him a rest in this one. So that's where it becomes a little bit clear as to how that goes. And shout out to Connor Tracy as soon as this was the Guru Timmy special, and Timmy talked him up, and then they both jumped on in Supercoach, and I saw a few people like, I was listening to Beers and Break Evens, and they were talking about Connor. Is he actually an option in fantasy? And I thankfully told those people that no, we don't think he is. He's somewhere around a 40 guy. This 14 and his 20 odd last week, absolutely shocking. Like couldn't have been a worse game for Tracy, unfortunately, but he's definitely more a Supercoach option. You get the sweeping plays, you get the attacking stats if the Dogs are on fire, whereas you can get attacking stats here for the Dogs and still hit a 43. So that's where those kind of mid-tier guys aren't exactly what you're looking for here in fantasy. Mid-tier guys in the middle or on the edge can do a job. Mid-tier guys, especially when you have cash and you've built up a good team value in fantasy, it just doesn't seem to work as well. You can get burnt, and when you got guys like Teddy or Garrick is a little bit under that tier, that top tier. You got JC, you've got Drinkwater. These guys that can hit 60s, 70s without doing a crazy amount, whereas Tracy has to have two tries and a couple of try assists to get that number. You can get burnt where other guys are pushing ahead. So spend the extra 100 to at least get Garrick, and then who's a little bit undervalued right now, or go that little bit higher and get some guys that you can guarantee that every second week they're going to have a really good game. And then if they have a low game, it's in it can be 20 like Drinkwater, but that before that it was 85, like 80 and 70 and all that kind of stuff. So that's the thoughts on mid-range in volatile positions. So I think we'll leave it there, guys. That's where we're at for it's a couple of fantasy games in this one. Supercoach wise, I had Herbie myself got 73, which was good. Dream Team, Herbie and Katoa. So 45, I think, for Katoa. 62 for Herbie. What about that one in Dream Team? A little bit annoyed because I got him as vice captain, and I want to take his... Oh, Herbie lost the tackle break too. I want to take his score for the free vice captaincy loop with his 62. But he only got given 3 tackle breaks. I was like, well, that'd be nice. If we can get that up to 5 or 6, then we're sitting in a high 60 score, and that's awesome to double. But apparently not to be. They don't really do updates. It's like very minimal updates after the game. So that's that one. We're gunning for first in Dream Team, given we're 14th. So that's that one, guys. Hope you enjoyed the Thursday review. We'll get in tomorrow, hopefully. Oh, no, I'm away early. We'll get back on Sunday and have a little chat on a few games and on Sunday and go from there. And make sure you do tune in for myself and Nikki's video. We had an okay amount of views. I thought maybe we'd get a little bit more. But heading into round 13, it's a new crop of players, which is going to be fun. So make sure you do tune in on Sunday night following, thankfully won't be as late, following the last game of the week, and join me and Nikki for a nice conversation back and forth about the prospects heading into round 13 and where we're at following round 12. See you guys.